Hello, everyone. This is James from eDirectory, and Emerson is here with me as well today. And welcome to the monetization webinar. Just before we get started here, I wanted to let everybody know that if you have a question during the webinar or a comment, you can post it into the Q&A section. And then we'll stop periodically to address the questions and see if we can get everything answered. Okay, I think we'll get this going here. So today's webinar is on monetization, tools and strategies for online directories. This is a big part of eDirectory, obviously. You know, putting all your time and effort into these projects, and at the end of the day, the goal for many of these sites is to monetize. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that and some tools and techniques that people can use. Okay. The first thing to think about actually is, are you ready to monetize? And I know everybody thinks about monetization and I need to generate revenue from this business, et cetera. But typically, there's three phases to building and launching a directory site. The first phase is building the content, just making sure that the site looks great. The second phase is building an audience, and then the third phase is monetizing. And so you can obviously, you'll obviously be, monetizing, while you're building an audience. You're going to constantly be doing all of these, but if your site doesn't look great off the bat, it's really tough to build an audience, and without an audience, it's difficult to monetize. Some of this stuff can be done though, and I'll talk to you about some techniques here as we go. I think we had a question come in the Q&A. Let me just stop and take a look. Okay, great. Okay, it wasn't a question, just a comment there in the chat. Okay, so those are the three phases, and the content that you have, it just needs to, your site needs to be a good guide, or is it useful for a visitor? If it's not very useful and the content's very thin and you don't have people signed up yet, put the effort into doing the signups yourself. Rather than just kind of trying to, run ads and stuff at the beginning. So that's the first thing to think about. But when you're ready to monetize, and don't put the cart before the horse and monetize initially. So one thing to think about is it's all about value. What value is your directory providing? Are you providing visibility? Are you providing a seal of approval? Are you actually generating leads or sales for these listing owners? And you really need to understand what that value is and make sure that you're providing it. Because if you're trying to sell something that you're not actually providing, you're going to have a high churn rate. Things aren't going to work. You're going to spend a lot of money on acquisition of your listings, of your paid subscribers, et cetera. So understand that value and make sure that you're actually providing it. And one of the things that works great today, a lot of data is commoditized across the internet, local search, et cetera. You can find listings everywhere. We often have people say, oh, why do I even need a directory? I can, there's all this information is already in Google, things like that. So one of the big things is this idea of curation or a seal of approval that your directory is going to provide. And you can feature quality providers. You have much more depth of information to it, et cetera, for that. So think about that as you're going there. All right. The first thing to talk about also is setting the pricing. How do you want to set your pricing for the directory? And there's a lot of ways to do this. Price in business, it's set on a cost plus basis, on a basis of how much will people pay, et cetera. There's a bunch of different ways that pricing can be set in a directory. We have a couple tips. Actual pricing depends on the market you're in. And some different markets charge very different amounts. You know, if it's an industrial directory where the average ticket is very high, you can charge a lot more. Some categories pay more than others. So if you have a directory, you know, that's doing like even local search within local search, say a hotel. Average night at a hotel maybe $150 a night, whereas you know, a bakery may charge $10 for breakfast, and so you're probably going to be able to charge the hotel more than the bakery. So keep that in mind as you're doing it. One other thing is with the pricing is we recommend 3 levels: a free level, an affordable level, and an aspirational level. And we had an email come into us prior to the webinar just about the question, like, should I do a free level? I think the question was, and just give it away for free. And then what is the value that I can provide people if they can already get a listing for free, et cetera. Well, typically the higher level listings, you know, they appear first, they're bigger, they set a standard for the brand. So there certainly is some value there. But the reason we recommend doing a free level is because often the sale price, often the SEO and the way that the sale works, you're not going to sell it right away. You'll get the people in, and then there'll be an upsell process that may happen over a series of months. So if you started with the free listing, at least they're a part of your directory, they're a member, and that's good for your SEO. Somebody still looking for that business will be able to find it. And then as time goes, you can gradually upsell these listings. So I highly recommend the free level, and I also recommend not restricting too much content on it. I mean, obviously you need a difference between the paid level and the free level. But if you can still have a couple photos and some things like that, you'll find it gets better SEO results, and people will be more engaged with it as well. One of the big things to do in terms of setting that is for the free level is there's a widget called the related listings, which are listings sort of in the same category or geographic area. And those are, that's a great one to put in to the lower levels. So, you know, the paid subscribers won't have any competition on their listing level. And then the affordable level is where you'll make most of your money. And then the aspirational level, it's sort of like, you know, they put the Dodge Viper sports car in the showroom to sell all those minivans. It's just sort of a halo for what you're selling. In addition to that, there's a lot of companies out there that will only buy top level, you know, very large companies. They're like, hey, we're the leader in the marketplace. Our marketing needs to show that we're the leader. And so that's very important to do that. I think we had a question come in. Let me see if I can answer that. Give me 1 second here. And let's see the Q&A. Can the free option be bypassed by having 3 paid listing levels? We input their information and using the claim listing to bring them in. Yes, you can certainly do that. That's certainly a way to do that, where you don't even say that there's a free level. You just kind of put them in there, and then people claim them. And so that's a potential strategy there. That works fine. Yeah, that's a way to do it. But still, you want to have listings live on the site that aren't paying you. I think that's what I mean by the free level listings. But you can say they're all paid if you want. Let's see. We had a question come in the chat. I wish if you could build your own plugin for monetization instead of using third-party services. One-time purchase is more convenient. You can actually buy the own source license in, and you can customize it as you wish, including building your own plugins if that's what you want to do for doing that. So you don't have to use our development services at eDirectory. if you want to build your own stuff on top of it, you can certainly do that. No problem there. And okay, and yeah, let me go back to the screen share here. Okay. Okay, so those are the three levels. In terms of setting the price for the actual level, one way that you can set the pricing is going to Google and figuring out what does Google charge. So Google basically charges per click on a website, and depending on the category, the price may be X. For a car or something, they may charge 35 cents or $1 a click. And so what you can do then is to set your pricing, you can figure out how much traffic you have and estimate, okay, I'm going to have this number of visits, this number of clicks per month. And so I'm going to charge, 20 cents a click instead of 30 cents that Google does. You don't actually bill per click, you bill it per month, but that can give you an idea of what to charge for a listing. And you can use that also to estimate traffic volume and values at niche levels. And so we had a number of our customers that actually, when they go out to make their sales pitch to a listing, they say, listen, you're going to spend $300 a month with Google to bring the kind of traffic that I'm going to bring you for $150. And that's a pretty good, it's a pretty effective sales pitch to be able to do that. So that's a good way to do it as well. Also, you can look at competition, what other listing type sites are charging, and sort of set around those as well. One question we often have is, oh, should we do monthly or annual pricing? Interestingly, the monthly pricing is great, but when you're first getting started, we found that people have a little bit of tough time with churn doing monthly pricing. And so the annual pricing gives them a little bit of a longer runway, because otherwise if the client sees the credit card ding every month, even if it's a pretty low cost thing, if they're not seeing any results, they're going to call you up and say, hey, I want to cancel my listing. And then you need to spend time trying to save it and all that sort of stuff. And usually after a year, these directory sites do work if you're doing your job on the content and bringing the traffic in, et cetera. Usually over a year, they'll see enough results there, depending to renew. And so giving yourself a longer runway is often pretty effective. Bundles. We actually have a full webinar on doing this in a couple weeks called Agency Services, and we're really going to go into depth on a number of these topics. But this is actually one of the most important things for working with a directory site, is this idea of bundling in other services with the listing. So you're selling a listing, and then think about what you're equipped to offer beyond just the listing. Many of our clients come from sort of digital media, and so there's a lot of digital services you could potentially offer as well. Think about what you're capable of offering and what can be a high margin service, and then bundle that in. So you can sell websites, you can sell email hosting, you can sell video creation. Video creation is actually a great service because there's real tangible value there. And with all today's technology, it's actually not that difficult to produce, and you don't need to make a large upfront investment. You can just, you can actually record a great video these days, even with like an iPhone here. Works great. But if you buy an expensive $500 camera and go out to site and record a video, do some editing, put that up, that's a great service. And ad management, SEO, content writing, etc. And then what you can do is bundle a couple of these services in with the listing. You can edit the listing pricing page and just add these services in with your packages, and then you charge them with the listing through eDirectory, and they'll pay you an ongoing subscription. You say, hey, we'll produce one new video for you every 6 months or something along those lines. And then you can really charge a premium. You can really charge a premium for it as well. Okay, I had a couple other questions come in. I'll stop for just 1 second here. Somebody asked us an unrelated question about our development services. Yeah, our development services are typically charged by the hour, depending on the project. If you reach out to your account manager, he can give you all the pricing and stuff. It's pretty affordable for, just in terms of getting software development done, but certainly some cost to it, and we do have some minimum blocks, et cetera, for it. But Emerson can put you in touch with the account manager. And I had a question on when the new version will be released. I'll mention that right at the end of the webinar, just to not get too distracted here. And then I have one question come in the Q&A. So let me see if I can get that for the Q&A here really quick. Have people had success by integrating Google AdSense as a revenue source? And that's actually a really great question. Is setting up a site with Google Ads. And yes, actually, it's been pretty interesting how that all works. And so years ago, there were all these ways to do different types of traffic arbitrage, and that's actually one of my slides here in a second, is to talk about how to do a little bit of that traffic arbitrage stuff. But I'll just go ahead and explain basically. So on your directory site, you can include Google AdSense, or Google, it's Google for Publishers, which is anytime somebody clicks, you earn a couple pennies for it. And Google is very opaque about how they divide the shares. So I think they take a very, very large cut typically from that. And you also need to have pretty significant traffic to generate any significant amounts of money. But if you put Google Ads throughout the site, and then the other thing that you do is find ways to buy traffic inexpensively and send that traffic into the website, you may be able to make some money off of that arbitrage there. And but you kind of have to know what you're doing, and it doesn't work just generally speaking. It works on some categories, some other ones are more difficult to do. But years ago, like literally, there were people that made millions of dollars doing arbitrage between the big ad networks of Yahoo Ads and Google Ads, and I met a couple of them, and it's pretty interesting talking to them at the time. But basically, they were able to set up a very thin website with some listings, or even a microsite, those kinds of things, and then fill it up with Google Ads or Yahoo Ads or this other ad network, and then buy inexpensive traffic on certain keywords into that, and then they would make money on the conversion there. So it does work. I wouldn't, if you don't know a lot about it and don't know how all that game works and how much you got to invest there, it may not work for you, and it may be frustrating, but it can be done. Otherwise, if you don't have very much traffic on your site and it's a new site and you only have 1,000 visits a month or whatever, and you're just getting off the ground, yeah, you're not going to make any money. Google's going to send you a check for like 10 cents a month, and that's probably not going to work as well. But you can make money with Google Ads. Typically, it's better selling your own ads. You'll make a much higher margin for that. Okay, a little bit about just selling and marketing the listings. So you set up the site, the content's there, you set your pricing, and now you're ready to go to market. How do you do that? How do you get things off the ground? And so the first thing I always tell people, because we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and there's so much energy and so much excitement, which is great. But often the planning and organization kind of comes secondary. And so it's really, really important to get organized, decide what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, and plan it. Set it all up and set the tasks that you're going to do. One question that we have is about a CRM. Should I use a CRM for my Salesforce? I do recommend using a CRM if you have paid sales reps. More than one or two, certainly you definitely need one. There are a whole bunch of CRMs out there. I probably recommend, actually one that I recommend that's kind of light and nice these days is a CRM called Pipedrive. But there's a million of them out there. Actually, I don't recommend Sugar CRM anymore, as it's kind of a little bit of a clunky interface. But basically, the deal is the CRM has your listing database, who you're going to contact, and then you go through and contact them, and you make notes if you got through and all that sort of stuff with them, and you can send follow-ups and run all that process. And then when they sell a listing, the listing is provisioned. Often your sales list is the same as your listing list in the database there, but it may have some more information in there, more CRM type information. And it also, the CRM does more advanced things like, it tracks activities per day, and you can see your effectiveness and all that. However, if you're working by yourself and you have a lot going on, you may want to skip the CRM for right now and do that a little bit later. And you can, when you actually need it. I would say don't use the CRM until you need it, because it's just going to add friction to everything you do. So watch a set of 3 to 5 metrics on your CRM, which is probably, how many activities you're making, how many calls you're able to get through, what are those, stats on the calls you're able to get through, and then obviously, the sales, the win-loss sort of stats there as well, but you can set your metrics depending on your process. One other thing that's important is understanding the cost per contact. And so you could spend a lot of money on sales and marketing, and it's all gone, and where'd it go, and it's not coming back. And so you got to be a little bit careful about those things. Marketing only would be like you do email blasts, you online advertising, etc. That typically works where you don't actually have a salesperson at all. And that typically works for very, very low cost listings. And also a very broad base. So you go out and you contact hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, and you gradually get them to sign up, and then gradually get them to upgrade to a paid listing, etc. But if it's a more expensive ticket, you're probably going to need to talk to somebody and really explain the benefits of the directory and what you're doing, and that, hey, you could waste your marketing budget on Google, or you could, pay us for really good qualified traffic that's niche, and it gives you a seal of approval, etc. With that. So up from marketing is the telesale, and it's potentially more expensive per contact. Often it certainly works with, you do marketing plus the telesale, and those kind of work in conjunction. The thing about telesales is there's some real expertise in terms of being able to do that. And you can learn it, you can read a book, you can go to some training, etc. But if you don't know what you're getting into with the telesales, I would say make an investment in terms of getting that information or talking to somebody who does know how to run it. We've seen a lot of our customers over the years go out and just sort of, they try to outsource to a call center, an overseas call center even, and they make tons and tons of calls, and it just doesn't really work. It can work though if you know what you're doing, you know how to get the scripts written, and you understand that often, maybe it's a process where the telesales doesn't actually close, but they get appointments set up. Those kind of things might work. There's also certain sectors or communities where telesales work better than others. Young people today, I don't even know if they answer the phone anymore, and so telesales sometimes don't work as well with that. And then in-person sales, where you're going out and door knocking, that can work well as well. Historically, I think the local Yellow Page industry had a large numbers of sort of in-person sales that went to small businesses, knocking on doors, trying to close up sales for that. It certainly can work. It typically works if you're often in like resort communities where you have a high density of tourist related type of things, and you can hire in a seasonal staff, and you're able to get them right at the end of the season or the beginning of the season, when often the end they have the money from the season to spend, and they might go in and get a contract for next year, those kind of things. But it can work. You just need to really control it and sort of set up the program about how that's all being done, have a really good sales process where your sales reps are asking for referrals and all that sort of thing. It also works with very expensive packages, often for like B2B industries. Sometimes we have some of these clients that do, these really, these industrial type directories, and they sell very, very expensive listings for very niche audiences, and they go to trade shows and do all those things. And so they're able to personally meet their sales contacts at trade shows and that kind of thing. And that works pretty well as well. Sales always needs marketing support. You should have they need to work in conjunction with each other, and the marketing sort of warms up the leads. So your general plan is you buy the prospecting list, which is your listing list. You can export it from eDirectory, load it into CRM, and then start attacking it. Send informational emails out, newsletters, basically, one per week, one per every other week. They need to be informational. If you're just sending buy, it's not so effective. But if you are inviting people to be a part of the directory, inviting them to verify that their listing information is correct is a pretty good strategy that works. Those kind of things, check your reviews out, all those type of things work pretty well, but just the sell, upgrade your listing doesn't quite as much. The free signups, people sign up, at least they claim their listing, even if they're not even paying you for the claimed listing. And then you can upsell them later. That works. And then just after you have them as part of as a member, then you can constantly call and email upgrade offers for that. One other tactic that we've seen work pretty well is, often our clients go out and they go elephant hunting, which is, essentially they try to find one big or two or three very large sponsors that not only have a listing, but do site-wide sponsorships. Maybe it's the mobile app, they sponsor the entire mobile app, those kind of things. And then, you'll find you can charge a really high ticket for that. You can do bundle in some other custom services for these. And we see a number of our customers that have a few key accounts that make 25, 30% of their revenue for that. And then, and I think the last tip here is the power of persistence. This directory model is really a great business model because it has a recurring revenue stream. Once people are signed up, they'll stick with you. The content doesn't go stale very quickly. So there's just a number of great things about the business model. But it takes a little while to get it up and running and understand, get your sales scripts down, figure out the text that works for the marketing, those types of things as well. In terms of tools to use for newsletters, internally we use Campaign Monitor, which is great. It's a pretty enterprise system. That's one that works pretty well. One other one that, there are a bunch of these email newsletters, they all have their, they all work pretty well. Deliverability is an important thing with email newsletters, so think about that. But it's good you pick a program and then work on it, and you should have A/B stats on the open rates and those kind of things that you can refine and hone your message to find what's effective there. For that, I want to mention that. What else? I think that's about it for the sort of the standard presentation today. But I'd like to open it up if anybody has any more. If anybody has any more questions, or if Emerson wanted to add anything as well, he's welcome to. I had a couple things in the chat I'll just run through now. Okay. When will a new version be released? We are working away on a new version. We don't have an exact hard release date at this time. We're working on new mobile apps, all new mobile apps, and a couple other features as well. Probably sometime, maybe in Q3 to early Q4 is kind of what we're shooting at right now. But as we get a little bit closer, we'll have a much better perspective on what the dates are going to be and what's going to be in the release. But we do have a team working on on some new good stuff there for that. Let's see. HubSpot has a free version for sales and marketing. It can be integrated with eDirectory. Yeah, HubSpot is a great sort of content marketing tool. Recommend check that out. It's pretty good for that. Do you have clients who use the directory as part of a membership site? Yes, lots of memberships do it. Often, things like Chamber of Commerce, etc. Those things, those kind of organizations do sort of membership, and they include a listing with them. So membership directories are a big piece of sort of the directory ecosystem, certainly. Update on integrating shop with eDirectory. Yes, that's one of the other big things. We're working on a way to make, right now eDirectory on the listing detail page has sort of the ability to put a buy button in there that can link into an external store, those kind of things, so a listing owner can actually sell stuff. We are working on a more in-depth, sort of more robust little microsite shop feature for eDirectory, and we hope to get that out this year as well. I want to mention that. Please improve the dashboard for users. There's no option to delete listings and messages. Yes, we have. That is another item that we are looking at, is how to improve that whole experience there. The member dashboard. The delete listings was kind of an interesting thing. We actually didn't have. I think there is a way to do that in there, but it's a little bit hidden in there. And we probably need to look at that. A long time ago, all of our Yellow Page clients wanted it that way, where they, people would have to call or whatever to cancel. But times have changed, and that's not how people are doing. So we are looking at that. Do you have any updates on book now type things for listing owners? Yeah, that's actually a top priority of ours as well. To sort of do some light booking stuff as well. So that's coming. That's probably going to be a little bit later this year, though, for that item. Let me see what else we have. Please explain purchasing eDirectory's prospect list. What is it and how much? I got a question about purchasing eDirectory's prospect list. What is it and how much? I think the question there is how do you get listings to prospect against? And I think actually next week, right, Emerson, we're going to have a webinar that talks a little bit more about data and doing all of that. The way that you can get data to put in your directory, which is also your prospecting list, who you're going to sell against. There's data providers out there. You can go to Dun & Bradstreet. Is a good one. Info USA is a good one. And you can, there's a whole bunch of other data vendors there. I would say if you're in the United States, I'd say look at Info USA. They also do Canada. Look at that because you can go in there and see how many by category, how many listings are available by category, and they'll sell you a list, and then you can use that for your listings and prospecting against. That's basically it. The other thing you can do is scrape data, do Google searches, etc. Let's see. Let me just check. If anybody has any more questions, post them in the Q&A. We're in the chat here. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so we had a question come in. A bit of feedback I would love hearing your position on is my own initial customers have said that usually a free version and then directory is a paid percentage from bookings. That's sort of like an affiliate fee on that. And with that, you could set up a tool, like we have some plugins, I think, that do plug into some affiliate payment type things, and you can do that and charge an affiliate-based fee on those. We don't have that set up sort of out of the box, but you can plug in these affiliate systems and collect money that way. The way to do, the thing about getting that off the ground is you need to really have a pretty large traffic base to do that, to be able to make that work and generate enough money for that. But certainly, affiliate type percentage fee for bookings where you get everybody to sign up free and then they're going to pay a percentage, you could do that. The question is, if a business is only getting one booking a month, or the volume isn't there, it turns into be sort of a headache for everybody, and then they'll end up just sort of losing interest in it if they're not actually making money on it. And so often the model of just selling a monthly works for many of these categories better. But that thing actually depends on really what category you're in. If you could charge a percentage of the sale or those type of things like Airbnb and Uber do for that. And you have to have the traffic for it as well. So smaller directories, it's a little bit more tough to get that going because you don't have the traffic, you're getting the traffic built, all that sort of thing. Any data source you recommend for Canada? I would check out InfoUSA, actually. I think they have Canada there. It's a big billion-dollar company. But there's a whole bunch of the other ones out there if you just check data vendors. 360 business tours. That's a good idea to put that in. I think that's similar to just sort of a video. You could actually include the video widget and then a 360 tour for the business. Can you create a widget for referrals? Can you create a widget for referrals? We have, there's a bunch of ways to do that. There's some external sites that manage, some external products that manage the payouts for these referrals. So, I think one is called iDev Affiliate that we have a plugin for, and basically you just put that in a widget in the listing and then et cetera. And those can kind of be put in HTML and little HTML blocks in the listing. So the custom HTML block inside of the listing, you could include in all of these different types of affiliate things and manage it that way. For that, one more question here. Are you saying that a prospect list that you purchase? Are you saying that a prospect list that you purchase is a listing of existing customers throughout the USA and Canada? Would you use that to solicit these existing customers? Exactly, yes. So your directory will feature listings. It's a guide of something, and then you go and sell against listings in the guide. So basically your prospect list and lists of listings are the same there. Okay. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions coming in right now. So if Emerson doesn't have anything else to add, oh wait, we got one more. How is the prospect list made? Okay, so the prospect list, your list of listings, you can either buy the list, and that's where you go to infousa.com and you can just buy it there. Or you can go out and create your own list by doing internet research. You can search Google, copy and paste, and put a list in Excel, and then import it yourself. So either you make it yourself, or you buy it, or you could even make a partnership with a trade organization or some membership site, that type of thing as well. Is the prospect list come from the Yellow Pages? Yes, you can get it from some Yellow Pages. Absolutely. That's how you can do it. You can go out and search another Yellow Page website, and you need to be a little bit careful about if you're copying and pasting about copyright and licensing terms if you're using some other list like that. But then once you have the list of listings, you can go and sell against those listings. Okay, well, thank you for your time today. I don't know if Emerson, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, James, that's it.
Oh, I got one more late question. Does eDirectory support, does GoDaddy support eDirectory? The short answer there is yes, you can get eDirectory to run on GoDaddy, but it's really not a good idea. GoDaddy is sort of a consumer hosting, for $5 website kind of thing, and eDirectory is a little bit more of an enterprise product to run on a real business on. So there's some other, and a lot of their servers are, they don't have the power, they're not powerful enough, or they're missing some features, or some some flexibility on the administrative end for GoDaddy is locked down. Like you can't get root access in some hosting packages, et cetera. So we don't recommend GoDaddy. I'd probably recommend, there's DigitalOcean is a good hosting company that's affordable as well. DigitalOcean.com, you can check that out. That one works really well with eDirectory, and we have packages all set up to where you can just install there and you're ready to go. Amazon Web Services, AWS works, a lot of other cloud services, Google Cloud, et cetera, you can run eDirectory fine on. If you reach out to your account exec, he'll be able to tell you a list of good providers. One more question. Okay, we're getting some late questions in. I'll answer them. I have one more question. How to be protected from spammers who are sending spam messages through the contact forms. One thing is getting the CAPTCHA enabled for the spammers. I think the Google CAPTCHA, you got to get that set up. The other thing that works is putting in putting the DNS with Cloudflare that I think we typically recommend people do, because Cloudflare is pretty good about blocking the spam. Here's the thing, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people just out there selling, and they go out and they go out and find just listings that they're trying to sell against. And so they'll just go out manually and enter them in the contact forms and stuff. And it's just really tough. And so you can turn the moderation on and manually moderate them, but it's kind of a little bit of a headache to do all of that. So the spam thing is always like, do you just want to leave it open and let people come through? Or do you want to deal with it and filter everything before it goes to the listing enter with that? It's sort of a cat and mouse game. Okay, so thanks for your time, everybody, today. I think that's all the time we have. If anybody has any more questions or anything, please don't hesitate. You can reach out to us via email. I don't know, Emerson, you can put in, maybe you can put in the email into the chat for everybody there, Emerson, for everybody to get that. And thanks for your time today. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks for the next webinar. And there's Emerson's email if anybody has any follow-up questions. Okay, thank you and have a great day.